Alasdair, we're now looking essentially at the UK not going as it has done over the last weeks and months for little day-by-day extensions, but potentially for a much longer delay. There must be some consternation in Brussels about that.
Yes, well, this vote on the Yvette Cooper amendment, yes, this really is the latest in a roller coaster ride of votes in the House of Commons that is extremely difficult to follow. It happened very late last night, so there's been no reaction specifically to that yet, but it's clear that if this does go beyond April the 12th, then really we could only be talking about a long delay to Brexit. Jean-Claude Juncker yesterday said the deadline for passing with this withdrawal agreement is the 12th of April, the end of next week, but he did leave open the question of what happens if the deal isn't passed. Now, the idea of a long extension is actually pretty divisive in the EU. We had a very strong reaction from people like Guy Verhofstadt, the European Parliament's Brexit coordinator, who was very forceful in the chamber yesterday, reacting with horror to the idea, saying there would be a new Conservative MP Prime Minister after Theresa May. Can you imagine a Boris Johnson or a Michael Gove, both architects of what he called the Brexit disaster, having their keys in their hands for the future of the EU? That would be unthinkable, he said. President Macron also has said that the EU can't be held hostage to the political crisis in the UK. Balance that against people like Donald Tusk, who's called for patience over Brexit, and Angela Merkel, who said we must do everything we can to avoid a no deal. And this vote in Parliament is really the first time they put flesh on the bones of their opposition to a no deal. We've also, of course, got the 6 million signatures for people saying revoke Article 50, stop Brexit altogether. They'll be keen to take that on board. Extremely difficult decision. Would the EU really boot the UK out?
Now, meanwhile, of course, for the EU side of things, we've heard them express their frustration repeatedly over the fact that the UK seems to look to Brussels for solutions to the problems that it has itself. How on earth is Brussels expected to make any kind of decisions when the UK political system is in meltdown?
Yes, it's effectively a basket case, isn't it? We're already 5 minutes after midnight, we're in extra time, and they're still making moves that a lot of people said should have been done 2 years ago after the 2017 June election, which resulted in a hung parliament, or even after the referendum itself 3 years ago, because the results was so close. UK politics, of course, is traditionally so adversarial. We see it in the House of Commons every day. You've got the opposition against the government. The opposition has to oppose. It's all extremely combative. That is now upside down to a certain extent, but it's producing some pretty strange reactions, and the contradictions are reflected in today's headlines. Let's have a look at the Daily Telegraph, which says there's Jeremy Corbyn in the Brexit driving seat. Now, it sparked horror amongst this right-wing paper of the idea of this left-wing Marxist shaping government policy and knocking on the door of number 10. On the other hand, other papers like Metro say it's good to talk. So this idea of trying to build consensus is what the UK should be doing. The party system, as far as the two main parties is concerned, has pretty much broken down in the UK. And the Tories, we've got the Eurosceptics for a long time now acting as a party within a party, quite happy with no deal. On the other, we've got Labour, of course, split over the idea of a second referendum, which may cause problems for Jeremy Corbyn now. There's also ambiguity over what the two party leaders really believe. Theresa May, the Remainer, but apparently really pushing for this sort of harder Brexit, and yet Jeremy Corbyn, traditionally a Eurosceptic, supposedly pushing for a softer Brexit. The UK has always been very dismissive of continental-style politics with its consensus-building groups of grey-suited politicians in back rooms trying to sort things out. But a lot of people on both sides of the channel now, I think that the UK could do with a dose of that itself.
All right, well, let's see if it takes that on board. Thank you very much, Alasdair Sandford there.